Hi class, this is a quick flip video on adding and subtracting real numbers, and we're going to be doing multiplying and dividing real numbers. Some of you might have seen this before. Most of you should have seen this before, either from your 6th grade teacher or your 7th grade teacher, depending if you're an 8th grader or a 7th grader. But I am going to review it anyway. So here we have a positive 3 plus a negative 5. In this example, they show you using a number line. So we're on positive 3, so we're right here. And you are going to add negative 5. So you're basically subtracting 5 units. So when you're going to subtract 5, you're going to hop to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You end up landing in negative 2. So 3 plus a negative 5 is a negative 2. Now, me and Miss San, and I think there's other teachers also, use this little story about gangs in order to help you remember how to do this, because we're not going to be able to draw a number line every time we have to add or subtract integers. Sometimes they're very large integers. So the gang story goes, okay, in front of this number 3, we don't have a sign. So if there is no sign in front of the number, we say it is positive. So 3 is positive. Now in front of this 5, we do have a negative. So this is from the, we say it's from the negative gang. So again, 3 had nothing in front of it, so it's positive. 5 had negative in front of it, so it's negative. So if you think of different gangs, they are not going to be friends with each other, and they're not going to get together, they're going to fight, right? So if we have 3 from the positive gang and 5 from the negative gang, they're going to fight each other, right? So 3 positives are going to get together or actually fight 3 of the negatives. How many are left over? How many are left that are not fighting with anybody? 2, right? And what gang are they from? The negative gang. Let's try another one over here. 3, negative 3 plus, let's say 2. Okay? Let's make it 12. Negative 3 plus 12. So again, we look at 3. What sign is in front of this 3? A negative. So that means they are from the negative gang. This 12, what sign is in front of it? There is no, well, there's no sign. So this 12 actually has to steal the sign of the problem, that plus sign. So again, 3 is from the negative gang. 12, because it had no sign, it's going to steal the sign of the problem. So again, are we friends, same gang, or are we enemies, different gangs? Here would be different gangs. So if you're different gangs, you are going to be fighting each other. So 3 of these are going to fight 3 of these. How many are left over? You should have 9. But from what gang are those 9 that are left over that are not fighting? From the positive gang. And I'm putting a little plus there, but you really don't need that plus. You can go ahead and just leave it a positive 9. Okay, let's look at problem C down here. Again, we have to identify this 3. What gang are they from? The negative, because that's the negative that's in front of it. This 5, what gang are they from? The positive. Same gangs or different gangs? Different gangs. So we're not going to get together. We're not friends and going to get together and hang out. We're going to fight. So if these 3 fight 3 of these, how many are left over? 2. From what gang are they all left over? The positive gang. So you could either put a little tiny plus in front of it or just leave it a 2. Now B is a little different. Okay, B is a little different. Let's take a look. And remember, you guys are taking notes on this as we're going through. I'm going through a little quickly, but you make sure you rewind and listen to me if you need to. All right, what sign is in front of 18? Negative. So the 18 here are from the negative gang. What sign is this 2 from? The negative gang, right? So this 2 is negative. So again, this adding and subtracting problems of integers, they're all subtraction problems are basically can be rewritten as addition problems. So what you have to, whenever you're adding and subtracting, to remember this little trick, you just have to kind of look at, okay, well, what gang are they from? They're from the negatives. Those are from the negatives, or where they're from if it's from the positives, or whatever. So these 18 right here are all from the negative gang. These 2 are from the negative gang. So if we're both from the same gang, are we going to get together and hang out? right? We're not going to fight each other. We're going to get together and hang out. So now how many of us are all together? 20. But we're all from what gang? Name. The negative gang. Don't forget to put the negative there. Don't forget to, make sure you don't change their name. Okay? All right, now problem C. They're decimals. Same concept, okay? Same concept. We have 4.8, and 4.8 are from the negative gang. And we have 9.5, and 9.5 are from the positive gang. So again, opposing gangs, we're going to fight, or we're the same gang. We're going to be friends. Opposing gangs, right? We're different gangs, so that means we're going to fight. So that means we're going to subtract, right? How many are going to be left over? If you go ahead and subtract 9.5 minus 4.8, okay? And remember, don't write the negatives and positives. You just know that they're going to subtract each other, because when you think fight, think subtraction, okay? So bigger number minus smaller number. 9.5 minus 4.8, we end up getting a 4.7, okay? Because you end up borrowing here. This becomes an 8, the 5 becomes 15. 15 minus 8 is 7. Decimals line up, and you have 8 minus 4 is 4. Now, let's put 4.7, but what gang am I from? Those are the ones that are left over. 4.7 is left over. Who had the most people, right? Was it the 4.8 negative or the 9.5 positive? It's the 9.5 positive. So 4.7 are left over from the positive gang, so we leave it 4.7. All right. All right, I went ahead and I switched the slide. I wanted to show you subtracting real numbers. Okay, and I'll go back to that fraction one in a little bit. Subtracting real numbers. Remember when I said when you subtract, you're basically adding also. Any subtraction problem can be rewritten as an addition problem. Okay, this right here, this minus, then you've got a parentheses and another minus right here. Okay, we call this a double negative. That means that it's a negative next to another negative. I think Ms. Gallardo calls this el chinito because it looks like a little, like the face of a person there. And every time she says you see the little chinito, you make it into one big plus. Okay, so if you remember that way, that's fine. I call these double negatives right here. They're next to each other. You make them one big plus. Two negatives together next to each other will basically cancel each other out and make a positive. Now that we did that first, we got to take care of our double negatives first. Now we can go ahead and do like we did in the previous page. 8, is it from the positive gang or the negative gang? Negative gang. 13, is it from the positive gang or the negative gang? Positive. Remember, if it's got no sign, it will take the sign of the problem. So if we've got 8 from the negative gang and 13 from the positive gang, are we going to get together or are we going to fight? We are going to go fight, right? So how many left over? If we fight, that means subtract. How many are left over? 5, because 13 minus 8, remember, you just think of the numbers, 13 minus 8, and you get 5. And what gang are they from? The positive gang. Okay, the positive gang. Let me give you another scenario. Negative 5 minus 2. Would we call that a double negative? And be careful. When we were talking about a double negative here, weren't they two negatives that were next to each other? Okay. Here, the negative belongs to the 5, and this negative belongs to the 2. Those two negatives are not right next to each other, so we do not call that a double negative. So we go straight into the gangs. What sign is the 5 from? Negative. What sign is the 2 from? If it has no sign, remember, it will steal the sign of the problem. So what gang is that 2 from? The negative gang. So if we've got 5 from the negative gang and 2 from the negative gang, are we same gang, we're going to hang out, or are we opposing gangs, we're going to fight? Same gangs, they're both negative, right? So if they're same gangs, we're going to get together. So how many of us now? 7. Now is it positive 7 or is it negative 7? We were originally all from the negative gang and we're getting together. We're still all from the negative gang. So the answer for that one would be -7. We have another decimal over here. So we have 3.5 minus 12.4. No double negatives, so we're checking for that. What sign is 3.5? Positive. What sign is 12.4? Has no sign, so what's it going to do? It will steal the sign of the problem. So again, what sign is 3.5? Positive. What sign is 12.4? Negative. If we are different gangs, we are going to fight. So we're going to subtract. When we say fight, that means subtract each other out. Okay? So let me go ahead and do 12.4 minus 3.5. I line them up, bigger minus smaller. I can't do 4 minus 5, so I have to borrow from the 12 and make it an 11. And this 4 becomes now a 14. 14 minus 5 is a 9. And 11 minus 3, we get an 8. So that comes over here, but we're not done yet. That was just the math part of subtracting decimals. Remember, different gangs subtract. We got 8.9. But who are these 8.9 from? What gang do they belong to? The negative gang had the most people, right? So negative 8.9. 3.5 are still fighting 3.5 on the negative gang. So the leftover people that are not fighting are from that negative gang. So negative 8.9 are left behind. All right. Let me see if I can come up with some more examples to see if you've got this down right. All right, guys, here I went ahead and I put up some examples, all using the same numbers, but a lot of them are going to have different outcomes. Okay, so again, this is us practicing our adding and subtracting of integers, our gang stories, right? So we're going to go ahead and take a look at 3. What gang is 3 from? Positive. Take a look at 10. What gang is 10 from? Well, it's got no sign in front, so it will take the sign of this problem, right? So 10 is from the negative gang. 3 is positive, 10 is negative. We fight or we get together? Fight. So how many are left that are not fighting? 7, because if you subtract 10 and 3, those are easy numbers. 10 and 3, you get 7. But what gang are those 7 from? The negative gang, because that's the gang that had the most people. So those are the leftover people that are not doing anything. Okay? Now let's look at 3 minus negative 10. This, you have to be careful, has a double negative. That means 2 negatives next to each other. The difference between this one and the one I did before was this one doesn't have the parentheses. Sometimes you'll see it with a parentheses like this. Okay? Sometimes you won't. Okay? So make sure you are prepared for either one. The important part is that the 2 negatives are next to each other. So because these 2 negatives are next to each other, you know what? I'm going to make that one big plus. I have to take care of my double negatives first. And 3 plus 10 is a regular elementary problem. 3 plus 10 is 13. Let's look at the third example. What gang is 3 from? Negative. What gang is 10 from? Again, this one's going to be a thief. It's got to steal that sign because it's got no other sign. Second number always has to have a sign. So 10 is from the negative gang. Same gangs or different gangs? We are from the same gang. So that means we're friends. We're going to get together. How many of us now? 13. All from what gang? The negative gang. Next one. Before I start figuring out, hey, what's 3, what's 10, what should I notice right off the bat that I got to take care of first? My double negative. So this is a little crooked here, but this should be, you should make that one big plus. So minus minus next to each other will become a plus. Now we can identify what gang each one is from. So 3 is from the negative gang. 10 is from the positive gang. Friends or we're going to fight? We're going to fight, right? We're enemies, different gangs. So when we fight, how many are left over that are not fighting? 7. And they are all from what gang? Positive. So 7 stays just 7. So negative 3 plus a 10 is 7. Next one over here. Do we have any double negatives to take care of here? Nope. So we have a 3 that is from negative gang. We have a 10 that's from the positive gang. Same gangs or different gangs? Different. Fight or get together? We're going to fight because they're different gangs again. So we have 7 left over from what gang? Positive. Double negatives in this one? Nope. So we go straight to identifying. 3 is from what gang? Positive. 10 is from the negative gang. Opposing gangs we're going to fight. So our answer is 7. Our leftover not fighting from what gang? The negative. All right, guys. Now let's switch caps. Now we're going to do multiplying and dividing real numbers. These get a little bit more complicated because there's some fractions in here. Again, these are skills that you should be coming in with, so I'm trying to do this flip video to try to like get you guys all on the same playing field, because your book assumes that you know this already. So now for multiplying and dividing integers, or multiplying and dividing real numbers, we don't use that gang story anymore. Okay? A lot of you have heard that a negative times a negative is a positive. A negative times a positive is a negative. Or a negative divided by a negative is a positive. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. So a lot of you have seen that, and that is perfectly fine. If you remember those rules, great. But this is just something else to show you, to see if you, to help you remember. You could write this down every time you're working with integers until you have it memorized. And you all will have this memorized by the end of the school year when we have to have our test, because these are crucial rules. All right, crucial. All right, so you go ahead and start by drawing a tic-tac-toe board. Okay, so you see it here. Then you go ahead and do a tic-tac-toe of pluses all the way across like a win. And then everything else gets a minus sign. Everything else gets a minus sign. So now let's try. What's a positive times a negative? The answer is a negative. Okay, let me try one more. What's a negative divided by a negative? The outcome is a positive. What's a negative divided or multiplied, because this works for multiplying or dividing. So what's a negative multiplied by a positive? The outcome has to be negative. Any way that you work this out, backwards, forwards, if we start going this way, negative divided by positive is negative. Or you could go this way too. Isn't positive times a positive a positive? Okay, so this works, and it's a help. It sometimes can relieve stress if you're remembering so many different rules in math and you want to just jot this tic-tac-toe down really quick. You have it there, you access it, and believe me, you will remember it. Okay? All right, let's start doing some examples. So negative 3 to the second power. That means negative 3 times negative 3, right? So let's look at our tic-tac-toe. Is that a negative times a negative or a negative times a positive? Well, 3 is negative here, and this 3 is negative here, right? So that's negative times negative. So negative times negative is positive. So my answer will be positive. All I have to do is multiply the numbers. 3 times 3 is 9. So we end up with a positive 9. Again, 3 times 3 is 9. And negative times negative is a positive. Again, negative times negative is a positive. Now fractions. Let's do another one with a fraction. But this one, I don't know if you guys remember, when you multiply fractions, it's the easiest way. You just multiply your tops and you multiply your bottoms. You multiply your numerators, which are your top numbers, and you multiply your denominators. So let's just go ahead and actually multiply the numbers. 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 2 is 8. Now we just have to worry about the sign. Well, 3/4, what sign is that? That's a positive. 1/2, what sign is that? Sorry, oops, made a mistake right here. Sorry. Backtrack. 3/4 is a negative. 1/2 is a positive. So again, if you go back to your tic-tac-toe, a negative, let me erase this from here. So we need to look for negative and positive, right? So right here, negative times a positive fraction, your answer will be a negative fraction. So in front of this 3/8, we better make sure we put that negative because it's a negative 3/8. So multiplying and dividing, guys, is a lot easier. If you remember that tic-tac-toe, you write it down somewhere in your notes. You always refer to it and memorize it. Okay, memorize it. Now let's look at problem 8. Okay, so we've got a positive 6 times a negative 15. Positive 6 times negative 15. Well, let me just go ahead and do 6 times 15. 6 times 15 is a 90. Now I got to figure out if this is a negative 90 or a positive 90. Well, a positive times the 15 is a negative. What's positive times negative? If we go back up to the tic-tac-toe, positive times negative is negative. So our answer is negative 90. Negative 90. Positive times negative is negative. Problem C and problem D, guys, are very similar. Again, let me go ahead and show you some with division now, since the multiplication is our easiest ones. Okay. Some of you might have heard of this KCF, keep, change, flip. This is only when you are dividing fractions. So when you're dividing fractions, you do the keep, change, flip. So it says, what is the value of x over y? Well, if x is negative 3/4 and y is negative 2/3, negative 2/3, this big fraction bar, once we get into the higher grades, that fraction bar means division. Okay, it means division. It's used most, okay, back to this. So it means division. And you're not usually going to see this little division sign like that. Mostly that's for elementary. Now we use the division sign, the fraction bar, as a division sign. But I don't like the way this is written. I tend to work this out better when I have this negative 3/4 divided by negative 2/3. So yeah, in algebra we use that division sign, the fraction bar as a division sign, but when I'm used to, when I have my fraction that I'm dividing, I change it to that division sign. So back to the KCF, keep, change, flip. So if you've heard of this, this should be just a review. If you haven't heard of this, what it stands for is you keep the first one. So this right here is your first one. So you're going to keep this exactly the same. You keep negative 3/4. Then that's keep. Then we have to change. We have to change this division sign to a multiplication sign. So we use that, a dot, to signify multiplication. And then we have to flip this last one. So we've got to flip. So we keep, we change, and we have to flip. Now when you flip it, the fraction still is negative, so that negative stays there. So instead of a negative 2/3, now we're going to have a negative 3/2. Okay? So keep, change, flip. Again, it's a reminder of dividing fractions. Now that it's multiplication fractions, all we got to do is multiply our numerators and multiply our denominators. So I'm going to ignore my signs right now. I'm just going to go 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 2 is 8. Now I got to worry about my signs. What's a negative fraction or a negative number times a negative number? If you go back to that tic-tac-toe, negative times negative was positive. So 9/8 will stay 9/8. Okay? And you simplify it right now. It's an improper. This could also be changed to a mixed number. 8 fits into 9 one time with 1 left over, and 8 would still be your denominator. So 9/8 is fine, and 1 1/8 is the same. Either way is fine. Make sure you know how to flip between them. All right, let's do A, and then we should finish up with this video. So we have 3/4 divided by negative 5/2. We're going to keep, we're going to change, and we are going to flip that one. So keep 3/4. That stays 3/4. We're going to change the division to times. And we're going to flip the negative 5/2. Now it's going to be negative 2/5. keep, change, flip. Once you do the keep, change, flip, you're ready to multiply. All division of fractions will change to a multiplication problem. Again, without looking at the signs, just 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 5 is 20. Now let's look at the signs. 3/4 is positive. 2/5 is negative. So a positive times a negative is a negative. Now, I would not like to leave that fraction, -6/20, just like that, because it can be reduced. What can simplify 6 and 20? What can be divided? What can 6 and 20 both be divided by? The same number. 6, the factors of 6 are 6, but 20 can't be divided by 6. It's 3, but 20 can't be divided by 3. And it's 2. 20 can be divided by 2. So we're going to divide by 2, top and bottom. Don't forget to carry that negative over. Let me change colors so you could see the fraction. We're going to carry that negative over. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. 20 divided by 2 is 10. And again, my original answer was a negative fraction. My final answer should also be a negative fraction. All you're doing is simplifying. All right, guys, make sure you take notes, review gang stories, review, that's for adding and subtracting, review keep, change, flip, that's multiplying, that's dividing fractions, multiplying fractions, and don't forget about the tic-tac-toe, that is used for multiplying and dividing fractions, decimals, integers, any real number. Multiplying and dividing, you use tic-tac-toe. Gang stories is for adding and subtracting. All right, guys, see you next class.